Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos. So Ole Gunnar Solsjaker is looking to sign two forwards in January, and like I have mentioned on my recent videos, we have got quite a lot of players on our agenda, because obviously we do know that a massive rebuild is needed at the football club, and like I recently mentioned, I think we need at least 5 to 6 more signings, maybe even more, if we are to be back to being a competitive elite level football club. Like I did mention, we do need a striker. We need someone to come in that, of course, that can assure us goals, someone who can be more effective in the box, because obviously we haven't been scoring enough goals this season. We don't seem to have that clinical element. So yeah, we definitely do need a striker. We also do need at least one midfielder, because like I mentioned, we are missing impetus. Well, we're missing a creative impetus in that midfield. They're the areas that we didn't strengthen up during the summer. Unfortunately, it was good during the summer, that we did address some of the problematic areas. We got that experienced centre half in. We also got that right back in, but unfortunately we didn't address all the problematic areas. But it was always going to be difficult for us anyway to address all the problematic areas in one summer transfer window. So it's good that Solskjaer is making plans for January. I think Man United have assured anyway he will be giving money to spend in January. But yeah, he wants to bring two attackers in. But I do actually believe, for me, on perception, we'll do the vast majority of our transfer business next summer. So we'll probably look to sign one or two players in January. So these actually quite a lot of players on our agenda, like I said. But before I go into all of this, I'm just going to interpret some of the stuff Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mentioned during his press conference, building up to the game against Partizan Belgrade tomorrow evening. He has given us a bit more team news. So as I did update you on my previous video, David De Gea, Paul Pogba and Luke Shaw all missed training, and obviously they haven't made the trip to Belgrade. Regarding David De Gea, Solskjaer has confirmed he will be ready for Sunday, which is very, very good news. And either way, anyway, even if David De Gea, would have made the trip, I still believe for this particular game, Sergio Romero would have been obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's preference over David De Gea. Don't forget, last week, David De Gea had withdrawn from international duty, due to the leg injury he had sustained, and he was actually, there was huge doubts of him playing in the Liverpool game, prior to the game. I didn't think, he would have played, but actually he did. So in that aspect, I was really surprised. Obviously, the injury wasn't as severe as we first feared. He has given us some news on Paul Pogba. He has confirmed that Paul Pogba will miss the game, obviously, tomorrow, because he hasn't travelled. And he's also confirmed he will not play on Sunday against Norwich. So obviously, that's some negative news. Like I mentioned, Paul Pogba's missed six of the last 8 games for Manchester United, with this ongoing foot injury that has been surrounding the player for a number of weeks and that. And even though he's mainly enjoyed a difficult time at Manchester United since he rejoined from Juventus back in 2016, he's actually still an imperative player, and we do know the difference he does make in that midfield, Paul Pogba. So yeah, Solskjaer's assured that he definitely will be playing against Norwich on Sunday. Regarding Luke Shaw, I don't know, when he's going to be available. Luke Shaw's obviously, been out since the 2-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace. He has been out since the 2-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace, and we know deep down, that Luke Shaw is a very imperative player. Like I mentioned, a lot of people talk about Luke Shaw being injury prone, and I will agree on that aspect. Nowhere near to the extent of Eric Bailly, but I think prior to Luke Shaw's injuries and his fallout he had under Mourinho and that, I think he's had a good career with Manchester United, and obviously he's my first choice left back. But I think he's not far away now, from regaining full fitness. He did win the double player of the season last season as well, taking into account, reflecting on his impressive performances. We've got some good news regarding Alex Tuanzebe. I think it did say he should be okay to play on Sunday, but won't be playing tomorrow evening. Obviously, Alex Tuanzebe was named in the starting 11 against Liverpool, but obviously, had to. But obviously, obviously, with the hip injury he had sustained, obviously, he couldn't, play in the game. So obviously, Marcus Rojo had taken his place in the team. But yeah, and like I mentioned, yeah, so that's the news, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has given us. Diego Dalot will not be playing tomorrow evening either. He's actually, sustained quite a few injuries this season. Dalot, I think he's out with a leg injury at the moment. I don't think it was too long ago that he actually, was out with a groin problem, Diego Dalot. I'd give him more time at the football club. He's only been at the club since last summer. We purchased him from Porto for around 19 or 20 million pounds. But he's obviously anyway one of our backup options at that right back position. But yeah, it's very, very likely anyway. Solskjaer will make a lot of alterations in the squad. Tomorrow he'll play a lot of the youth, because a lot of the young players have actually made the trip to Belgrade. But yeah, so that's obviously very, very good news. I think there's a possibility that I think it's actually probable, should I say, that Wan-Bissaka will be playing in the game. Like I mentioned, with Norwich on the horizon, I think Solskjaer will rest some key players, but I think Wan-Bissaka probably will play in this game, because don't forget, Wan-Bissaka, only made his return against Liverpool, because before the Liverpool game, he'd missed the last 2 league games, the last 3 in all competitions. Obviously, with the ongoing illness he had, I think, tonsillitis, and a lot of people believe that Wan-Bissaka has been our most consistent signing so far this season. And if he does keep the consistency up, I think his valuation will persistently grow. I gave you the news about Jesse Lingard, didn't I? He has returned back to training now, because I think he's missed the last 2 league games with a hamstring injury. Like I mentioned, Jesse Lingard is one of the players, that does actually need to improve at Man United, because I think he's been very inconsistent this season. Obviously, he was poor in the last couple of months of last season, so he really needs a reality check and reflect on his status at the football club. He should be putting much more better performances out. News about Anthony Martial. I think he's back in training now. Well, he actually came on in the Liverpool game, didn't he? It's good now. He's recovered from injury, because obviously Anthony Martial he's a very imperative player, and I think he's mainly had a good career with Manchester United. Martial obviously is now into his 5th season at the club, and like I said before, he sustained his thigh injury. He enjoyed a great start to the season. Martial's produced 50 goals for the football club, and that's good, for the 23-year-old. So yeah, it is good to see him back in action now. And obviously, as he got confirmed at the start of the season, he has been given that number 9 shirt, because he seems to be more effective in that central position, even though he does predominantly play out wide on the left. Eric Bailly's obviously still out. He's out until the end of the year with a knee injury that he sustained throughout pre-season. Fossil Mento, I still think he's out with injury. I think probably Jones will play in this game as well. I think he'll probably play alongside Lindelof at the back. Harry Maguire, I think, will be rested for this game. Because the likes of Jones, Rojo, and Matic and that, they'll get opportunities in these type of games, like I mentioned. But yeah, he will make a lot of alterations in the squad. It's going to be interesting to see how Solskjaer approaches this game. It's going to be interesting to see what formation that he goes with, because obviously for the majority of this season, a lot of Man United fans, including me, have been criticising his tactics, but obviously my perception changed during the Liverpool game, because I thought Solskjaer tactically got it absolutely spot on. So it was good that we showed some tactical flexibility in that, because he did go with 3 at the back against Liverpool. And like I mentioned, I thought it was a really, really good draw, a point against Liverpool. It was a shame that we couldn't hang on and win the game, but it was a really, really good point, because obviously we know Liverpool are strides ahead of us at the moment, and obviously we're the first team this season to take a point off them, and Liverpool were really, really poor in that game, and I thought the likes of Rashford, Pereira, Daniel James in that attacking line did really, really well. We could cause all sorts of problems for Liverpool at the back and that, and we had periods of dominance in the game and that. But yeah, I thought, a point was a really, really good result. So hopefully now the team can gather momentum, and hopefully now with that draw, it can put confidence into the team, and we can start performing, we can start scoring more goals, we can start obviously as well creating more chances. Yeah. So like I mentioned, so there is a lot of players on Manchester United's agenda. So there has been news speculating out in the last couple of days. There has been reports about Timo Werner from RP Leipzig. I think Liverpool were in for him at one point, but now reportedly Manchester United are interested in him. Now, I think he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. He's a player that can score goals, he can lead the lines, and he's actually proven this, during his 4 years with RP Leipzig. Obviously, before he was at RP Leipzig, he was at Stuttgart. He is only 23 years of age, and I think I would be excited about the prospect of him playing alongside the likes of Rashford, Daniel James and Martial in our attacking line. I think he would do really, really well. Maybe the player would cost the club a substantial amount. Maybe an estimated guess would have to pay maybe around 60 or 70 million pounds for him. But he's one of the strikers on Manchester United's agenda. I think, like I mentioned, we are definitely expected to sign Mario Mandzukic in January. Obviously, that's very, very probable that's going to happen because recent reports have indicated out saying that, Man United have, reached a verbal agreement with Juventus to sign Mario Mandzukic in January. Obviously, Mario Mandzukic is surplus to requirements at Juventus, especially following the recommendation of Maurizio Sarri. Obviously, he hasn't played a single minute under Maurizio Sarri's guidance as Mario Mandzukic. The only element concern I've got about bringing Mario Mandzukic in is that obviously he's 33 years of age. He's only got probably maybe 2.5 at the tops. Years left in his footballing career, but I admire his career Mario Mandzukic, and the good thing is he's actually a cheap alternative. He's Mario Mandzukic. Man United I think will have to pay around just 9 or 10 million pounds for his services. Reports were coming out the other week saying that we was set to hand him an 18-month contract, and we were set to pay him around 4.4 million a year, which equates to around 85,000 pounds a week. But I think anywhere Mario Mandzukic has had his wages, he's had his 300 grand a week wages slashed. So I think Man United will give him around 150,000 pounds a week. Well, that's what he initially said anywhere. But yeah, I think we are expected to sign him in January. But I think Mario Mandzukic will do well at the club. Show the likes of Daniel James, Martial and Rashford and that how to be more effective in that box. Sorry, effective in the box and that. And I think and it's good that he's also highly experienced. And Mario Mandzukic has been at Juventus a number of years, and I think he has produced 44 goals in 162 appearances. He is still under contract with Juventus until 2021. But don't forget, we did inquire about getting Mario Mandzukic towards the back end of the summer transfer window. Obviously, we know there's been also talks about Moussa Dembele. Obviously for Lyon, he's also only 23 years of age. He can score goals as well, and he's actually an out-and-out number 9. So do you think he would be a good adequate replacement for Romelu Lukaku? So yeah, we have got quite a few attackers on our agenda, because obviously we do look very exposed now in that attacking line. Following the dismissal of Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez. Obviously we've had Martial out with injury. We had Rashford out with injury earlier on in the season, so that made us look even more exposed. And like I mentioned, we've only managed 10 goals in 9 Premier League games so far this season. That's nowhere near good enough to our standards. And we've actually, in the games we've scored in this season, we've scored 1 goal in every game except the Chelsea game, because we did beat Chelsea on the opening day by 4 goals to 0. But yeah, so who would you want to bring in? Solskjaer's looking to bring 2 forwards in January, like I mentioned. Obviously, we do know that there's, like I mentioned, been talks about Jadon Sancho. Recent reports have indicated out saying that Liverpool have been interested in Jadon Sancho. Now, I think he's still on Manchester United's agenda. Don't forget, we went in for James Maddison during the course of the summer. We went in for Jadon Sancho, during the summer. But obviously, reflecting back in January, Solskjaer actually identified Jadon Sancho as his number 1 priority target, but our move got scuppered for Jadon Sancho due to our failure to qualify for the Champions League. Now, obviously, if you're not in Champions League football, like I mentioned, it's going to be, harder to attract players to the elite level. And I think this is one of the main factor reasons, that went against us, during the course of the summer. If we are to reignite our interest in Jadon Sancho, we're aware that he's going to cost the club a substantial amount. We'll probably have to pay in the excess of at least around £100 million. Obviously, I know Borussia Dortmund, did get him for next to nothing. Basically, they only paid around £7 or £8 million for him from Man City. But obviously, due to his impressive performances during his time so far with Dortmund, his valuation obviously has persistently grown, because he's now into his third season at Borussia Dortmund, and Jadon Sancho is under contract with Borussia Dortmund until 2022. But I think he's actually unsure about his future. Borussia Dortmund came out the other week and said they've admitted that he actually could leave for a big club, because there's no way that Jadon Sancho will spend the entirety of his career with Dortmund. But like I mentioned, the main factor reason anywhere why he left Manchester City is because obviously he didn't get a sure first team opportunities at City, so obviously he departed Man City and went to Borussia Dortmund. But again, I think I'd love him at Manchester United. He would be the right solution. He is predominantly a right winger. Maybe we don't even need a right winger that much. He can also, you can also use Jadon Sancho centrally. Obviously, I recently, give you the news as well about James Maddison. Obviously, we do know James Maddison is predominantly an attacking midfielder. Like I mentioned to you, I think it was a couple of days ago, the news regarding James Maddison was stemming from a reliable journalist called David Ornstein. He's actually very, very reliable. He actually said he'd been notified by all parties that Man United are expected to sign James Maddison within the next year. So it basically means, we could get him in January if we are to sign him, or we could get him next summer. If we do sign him, I think it'll be more probable next summer. But I've been reading recent reports about James Maddison, and it does actually say that he's now expected to sign a new deal with Leicester. He's got still 4 years left on his current contract with Leicester as James Maddison. Obviously, James Maddison, again, I think he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. He would have depth in our midfield. He's also very, very good at creating chances. He's good at, feeding the attackers ahead of him. But look what he did last season. He created more chances than any other player in the Premier League. I think it was a total of 100 chances he did create, and I think he's enjoyed a good start to this season. And that James Maddison, Leicester only paid around £20 million for him from Norwich last summer. And obviously, like I mentioned, Leicester have lost quite a lot of their imperative players in recent years. They lost obviously Harry Maguire to us during the summer. They also, lost Raheem Mahrez to City last summer. They lost the likes of Danny Drinkwater and N'Golo Kante. So they have lost quite a few of their imperative players. But Leicester know how much of an imperative player that James Maddison is. But I think a few other teams are in for him as well. Like I mentioned, City have been in for him, Spurs, Tottenham. I think a few teams have been tracking him since he was a youngster at Coventry, because he initially began his career with Coventry. Did James Maddison. Then obviously he had, I think, a loan spell in Scotland with Aberdeen. He had a good couple of seasons in the Championship with Norwich, and he's only 22 years of age. And he would fit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's transfer strategy perfectly. Obviously, if we get Mario Mandzukic, obviously Solskjaer has obviously broken his transfer policy, because don't forget he said he wanted to recruit young British players, like he did do early on in the summer. So like I mentioned, there is a lot of players on our current agenda, like I mentioned. But there is obviously people saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does need more time at the football club, and I know I've been doubting Ole Gunnar Solskjaer lately, saying, he's not the right man for Manchester United, and, that's just my perception on it. Obviously, other Man United fans and that, and other people out there, neutrals, will have different perceptions than me, but I just don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right man to elevate Manchester United forward. Like I mentioned, that I credit him because I thought he got his tactics spot on against Liverpool and that. But, my element of concerns I've got, about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is I do love him. I love him a lot because, he was a great player for Manchester United for 11 years, and he flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance and that, and he has got that proven pedigree as a player. But my element of concerns is he hasn't got any intuition on how to manage a big football club like Manchester United and that. And, like I said, his pedigree's not really that good. And, he just really hasn't got that managerial experience to the highest level. And, obviously before he came to Manchester United, he obviously won a couple of Norwegian titles with Mould. And, before he was at Mould, he had a really short tenure with Cardiff. He hasn't got years of experience anywhere as a manager. He actually began his managerial career with Cardiff. He obviously ended up getting Cardiff relegated. relegated. Only managed around 29 or 30 games for Cardiff. You know, and it didn't work out for him then, you know, under at Cardiff. And, you know, you probably get certain Man United fans that fear that, you know, if we had to keep him for the remainder of this season, he could replicate at Manchester United, you know, what he did with Cardiff. You know, I do doubt that very, very much, because I don't think Man United will get relegated, like I mentioned, because I think, you know, the club's too big, you know, the club's too big. The club's too big. There's obviously, you know, too much money and that into the football club, and you know we haven't been relegated since 1974, I think, which is around 44 years ago now, something like that. Yeah, so I still probably believe that Man United will give Solskjaer, you know, at least until January, maybe even the next couple of windows, you know, to see who else, you know, he can recommend in to the football club. Also, I want to notify you as well that Roy Keane recently came out and he said that Man United should buy Harry Kane. I think it's very, very unlikely, you know, that we will get Harry Kane. Actually, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has responded to Roy Keane's suggestions of Man United getting the pursuit of Harry Kane, and he is actually admitted as Solskjaer, he's actually a big admirer of the player, but I think, you know, he doubts Manchester United, you know, would currently get him. But he would be definitely, you know, the right calibre player for the football club. Like I did currently mention. But like I mentioned, you know, we are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for 3 decades. You know, the last time we had as bad a start as a season to this was obviously, you know, back in 1989. You know, so far this season we've only registered 10 points from a possible 27, and we know that's nowhere near good enough, you know, to our standards. And also our away form needs to improve, because, you know, we haven't won away from home since the PSG game last season, when we did produce that miraculous comeback. And like I mentioned, it is 11 away games now where we've had that Solskjaer has had without a win. And I think also our home form does need to improve. But at the moment in the league, we are sitting 13th. You know, so you can quite frankly say at the moment we are facing a relegation battle, because we are just 2 points above relegation. But, you know, Solskjaer is aware of the expectations. You know, he does need to, exceed at the football club, you know, if he is to remain in the job at Manchester United. And, you know, I said at the start of this season that our expectations this season will be to finish in that top 4 and maybe perhaps win, some silverware, but more probable, you know, the top 4. Obviously, so in that aspect, you know, we can't get back into the Champions League, because I think we've actually failed to qualify for the Champions League 3 times out of the 6 seasons since the Alex Ferguson era. I think, you know, overall we've only failed to secure European football once since 1990, which was around nearly 30 years ago now. And I think the time we failed to secure European football was under the David Moyes era. But you know, so Solskjaer, like I said, he's aware of the expectations that. But, you know, I said at the end of last season, and I said at the start of this season, that, you know, I expected us not to mount any kind of title challenge up this year. Even though with the 3 signings we did bring in, you know, I still didn't expect us to mount any kind of title challenge up this year. You know, I didn't expect us, you know, to win the league this year, because it is a long rebuilding process. And obviously, analysing our squad at the moment, it isn't good enough, you know, to currently win the league. But I expected, obviously, Man United to have a better season this season than what we saw last season. Take into account, you know, there is still time, you know, for us for things, you know, to be turned around at the football club without a shadow of a doubt. You know, without a shadow of a doubt. But, you know, like I mentioned, due to our, disastrous start to the season, and, you know, I think everyone, you know, needs to take the blame. You know, I think now maybe certain Man United fans have got different perceptions on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You know, maybe a bit more Man United fans are now saying, you know, we should keep him in and we should give him a couple of more windows. Obviously, you know, reflect on the impressive draw against Liverpool. Obviously, you know, when we suffered that 2-0 defeat to West Ham, you got a lot of Man United fans demanding him out after the Newcastle defeat, you know, before the international break. You got a lot of Man United fans, of course, demanding him out of the football club, because every team we've lost to so far this season, we shouldn't have lost to. We shouldn't have lost to Palace at home. That was the first time we lost to them in our history. We shouldn't have lost to Newcastle away. We shouldn't have lost to West Ham away. So their games, you know, Manchester United, you know, should be definitely winning them. You know, I can give you a positive as well. You know, we haven't lost to a big side yet this season, which is good news. We didn't lose to Arsenal, we drew. We didn't lose to Liverpool, we drew. We didn't lose to Chelsea, we beat them 4-0. And I did say also our record against the top six sides also needs to improve this season. But we definitely need to start winning games. That's very imperative. But like I mentioned, my opinion is the vast majority of the blame does stem from the board, because the board have been a liability for several years, like I mentioned, with their poor recruitment, their poor selection of managers, and they didn't back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer enough, during the course of the summer, did the board, and I think the board, to be quite frankly, do need to assure structural changes at the football club, and whether they can assure these structural changes or not, I do not know. I think maybe we should get rid of our current board and recommend a new board in. I think we also need to definitely get rid of Ed Woodward, because he's also compatible to the board. He's also been a liability for several years, and you've also got a lot of Man United fans demanding him out of the football club. Some of the blame does stem from a lot of the players as well, because a lot of them have been performing way below par, and they need to, start performing. A lot of players, they need, to me, they do need a reality check, and also some of the blame does stem from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So for me, everyone is to blame. But the mistake, Man United have made quite a lot of mistakes in the last 6 or 7 years or so. We shouldn't have given Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job. That was one mistake from the football club, was giving him the job. I also feel sorry for him as well, because the club have put him in a very difficult position. And, maybe he does deserve more time, because not every manager, does settle in, straight away. Obviously, my perception was different about Solskjaer, when he was interim manager in that 3-month period, because, my overarching view on Solskjaer when he was the interim manager in that 3-month period, I thought he was the right man for Manchester United. Because obviously, in that 3-month period, he exceeded expectations. The results were good, the performances were good, and he got the best out of these group of players in that, and he won 14 out of 19 in total. And it's just seemed to me, since he has got the job permanently, everything's obviously seemed to have all gone wrong. And that's obviously, over the course of the 7 months he's been permanent manager, it's obviously, made me change my perception on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But yeah, he's enjoyed a difficult 7.5 months tenure with Manchester United. But you can still quite frankly say Solskjaer is still in the process of rebuilding anywhere, because analysing the majority of this Manchester United squad, it isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's. The majority of this team is Jose Mourinho's, because obviously Jose Mourinho did recommend 11 players in to the football club, and you can obviously now Solskjaer is still inheriting the vast majority of them. So yeah, it is a long rebuilding process. But after the sacking of Jose Mourinho, like I mentioned, we went in for Mauricio Pochettino. He was our top priority for quite some time. We went in for Zinedine Zidane. But obviously at the time, Solskjaer was our preference over them, even though his pedigree isn't that good, because obviously Solskjaer knows the traditions of the club and that, and obviously he was a cheaper solution than Pochettino. Solskjaer will not be sacked yet. I think he could last maybe till January or till the end of this season, unless things do get a lot worse. Because obviously there was reports the other week saying if we don't beat Norwich at the weekend, then that could assure that Solskjaer will be sacked or will put his job in serious jeopardy. But there again, there was reports stemming out before the Liverpool game. It says during the international break, and that if we would have suffered a heavy defeat to Liverpool, that could have sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But there again, they didn't assure it, because Solskjaer's our 4th permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era, and like I mentioned, we haven't really got the structure to keep sacking managers. We're not really known as a sacking football club, despite the fact that we've sacked 3 already since the Ferguson era, like I mentioned. But hopefully, he can turn things around at the football club, can Solskjaer. But, Solskjaer and Ed Woodward obviously, have the same perceptions, because obviously, Solskjaer insists himself he's the right manager for Man United. If he's never felt the job's too big for him, and Ed Woodward has obviously agreed on that aspect and said the same thing. He insists he's backing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 100%. I think recently Ed Woodward, not too long ago, told the coaching staff that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right man for Man United. you could say if it had been another manager now, maybe, he would have been sat by now. Probably, wouldn't have been given this amount of time. Obviously, with the current position, we are sitting in. And obviously, like I mentioned, there has been a list of managers on our agenda, who could replace Solskjaer at the football club. Like I mentioned, there has been a lot of speculation going on about Max Allegri, for quite some time now. And I think, a lot of Man United fans believe he would be the right candidate, but he's actually now the club's primary candidate, to replace Solskjaer if Solskjaer is to be sacked by the football club. So it's very probable that Max Allegri will be our fifth permanent manager if Solskjaer, can't turn things around, and obviously now is to go. Like I mentioned, it said yesterday, Man United, we were told that, we would win the Premier League and Champions League within the next 3 years if we were to recommend Max Allegri in. Obviously, if we were to recommend him, obviously I presume that the club will assure him, quite a substantial amount to spend, depending, when we did get him in and that. But, Max Allegri is managerless at the moment. He stepped down as Juventus manager at the end of last season. Obviously, he had a 5-year tenure with Juventus, and obviously won the vast majority of his silverware with Juventus. And reports were indicating out the other week saying that Max Allegri was demanding that he wanted to bring Mario Mandzukic and Emre Can with him to the football club. He also wanted to recommend Patrice Evering as one of his coaching staff. So he did assure a few things he wanted to do if he's obviously to get the job at Man United. There was also talks that he was in discussions with the football club not too long ago about his salary, what he would earn, what he would earn if he was obviously to take the mantle on at Man United. It said reportedly he would earn around 6.5 million a year, maybe even more. So yeah, there is actually still talks going on about him. I think also Arsenal are interested, in recommending him in. But I still believe we'll stick with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at least for this present time. But there's certain elements of me, that credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, to be fair, like I mentioned, he's got a lot of trustworthy in his young upcoming players, because obviously the vast majority of the young upcoming players have been given their chances this season, which is very, very good. Like I mentioned in my recent videos, I don't think, all the young upcoming players, will become a success at Manchester United, like I mentioned. This is why we're probably, considering, loaning some young players out in January. Reports came out not too long ago saying, we could consider loaning loaning Chong, Angel Gomez and Jimmy Garner out in January, maybe because they're not good enough to represent Man United, or, they need more opportunities, they're not getting enough at the club, maybe to gain them more experience in that. But, like I mentioned, a lot of the young players did well throughout pre-season. But, I can definitely assure that the likes of Greenwood and Tuan Zebe, that I think they'll become successes at the football club. Maybe even Brandon Williams will become a success at the football club. Don't forget, he recently signed a new contract, Brandon Williams. I think he's actually predominantly a left back. And like I mentioned, we have got quite a few full-backs in the team. It was good as well that Mason Greenwood recently now signed a new contract at the club as well. I was very, very happy about that. But Mason Greenwood, for me, needs to be given more opportunities, and I think he should be involved in the game tomorrow. May not start, but at least should be involved. And these question marks around Solskjaer as well, why he hasn't, started Mason Greenwood from the start yet in the Premier League. He needs to get given the start from the start in the Premier League, see how he does, cooperate and that. But, he has done really, really well in the games he has played in this season as Greenwood. And I think by the time he's 23, 24, he can become a huge success at the football club without a shadow of a doubt. He only turned 18 years of age, don't forget, at the beginning of this month. But so there's a lot of young players in the squad that are developing and trying to improve, and they do deserve a chance, so we will take that into account. My perception on Marcus Rashford is that his performances definitely need to improve. Hopefully, he can start putting good performances out now, because I thought he enjoyed a great game against Liverpool. He played really, really well. Like I mentioned, he scored a good goal. It was a good combination between James and Rashford. And, Rashford did get quite a lot of runs in behind, and he got them opportunities. So hopefully now this can build a platform for Rashford, and hopefully now he can start playing well. Because like I mentioned, for the majority of this season, he has been below par. in comparison to his time when he first broke into the senior squad. Rashford, for me, he's actually, now my perception has changed regarding his position. I know he can play centrally and play out wide, but for me, I think he seems to be better out on the flank, because he'll probably mainly play out on the flank anyway now that Martial has got back to fitness. That's what I do believe. I said Rashford, last season that looks better centrally, and sometimes he does play well centrally, but obviously I don't think obviously now that Martial's back, I think he'll play more out on the flank, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, and McTominay, Fred, like I mentioned about them two players, I don't know if they are the long-term solutions for Manchester United, them two players. I'm hopeful, that they can both succeed. McTominay's done really, really well this season. He's done well in that midfield, and he has, deserved to keep his place in the team as McTominay, and I hope, he does... keep the consistency up. I think he probably will play tomorrow. He'll either play tomorrow alongside Matic, or Fred, I should presume. But yeah, he's done really, really well as McTominay in that. He's not a world class midfielder, just like Fred isn't a world class midfielder. I've also seen glimpses of how good Fred can be. Fred needs more time, in my opinion, at the club. He hasn't emulated that level as yet. He was an exceptional player at Shakhtar Donetsk, so I can take that into account. But he hasn't mainly replicated that at Man United. I will admit, we overpaid for Fred, but we're known for overpaying for players in recent years anyway. We paid just under 50 million for Fred. To be fair, Fred never really got the opportunity under Mourinho. We paid... 80 million for Harry Maguire, and I agree, we overpaid for Harry Maguire, but he's, done really, really well so far as Harry Maguire. He's obviously the most expensive defender in the world. So we are known basically, for overpaying for players and that. We basically overpaid for Lukaku. We paid 75 million for Lukaku from Everton and that. He had 2 seasons at Manchester United. He enjoyed a great first season with the club, but didn't really replicate that in his second season. But the main reason why Lukaku left is because obviously, he lost his place in the team. Did Romelu Lukaku. And obviously Solsjaker confirmed that his preference was Rashford over Romelu Lukaku and that. But some United fans will still say it was a mistake actually, letting Lukaku go. But I was actually happy with the money we generated from his departure. We got 70 odd million, so we initially recouped the money that we did pay for him from Everton a couple of years ago. But yeah, you could say we also maybe overpaid for Pogba because it didn't really make any sense with the Paul Pogba situation. We had obviously Paul Pogba under Alex Ferguson, remember, as a young'un, when he was a lot younger. We got him from Lee Harvey. He got a couple of first team appearances, I think, but due to limited appearances, obviously Ferguson letting go on a free transfer. Then obviously, 4 years later, we go and buy him for £89 million. That was a bit, daft in a way. But I say we overpaid for him, and I can say that now because he hasn't done really, really well at Manchester United. I mainly saw the best of Pogba in that 3-month period when Solskjaer was the interim manager. But we haven't, only overpaid for players. We haven't only spent a big on players, in the last 6 or 7 years. We've also, got players on big contracts at the football club. Like I mentioned, Rashford on 300 grand a week, Martial on 200 grand a week. Lingard on just over 100. Pogba on 290 grand a week. Don't forget there was reports coming out the other week saying that Paul Pogba was demanding a substantial 600 grand a week from Manchester United. Do remember that because, this is what he wanted. David De Gea on 375 grand a week. He's actually the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. Harry Maguire on 200 odd grand a week. So we have got players on substantial wages at the football club and that. So also take that into account. But, I think it's around 800 million or something like that that's been spent in the last 6 or 7 years in all the managerial eras since the Ferguson era. So that's just under £1 billion. But always spending big on players and getting them Galactico players doesn't always guarantee you success, like I mentioned. But it does, like I mentioned, it does take time, for certain managers. To settle in, like I mentioned, look, prime example of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp's now been at Liverpool a number of years, but like I mentioned, Jurgen Klopp, in his first 29 games with Liverpool, his record was as was as bad or as worse than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's in his first 29 games at Manchester United. So maybe some people believe Solskjaer could emulate, into a Jurgen Klopp. But where we will see what happens in that. But I think the club are, you know, willing, to give him the time and that he does need. But we know in this generation now anyway, managers, don't get the time, that they would like. But yeah, and a lot of players have left the football club. They have. But there's still more problematic players at the football club, in my opinion, that do need to be moved on in January or next summer. So we need to focus on that as well as bringing more players in. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does line up tomorrow. Against Partizan Belgrade. It is our third game, by the way, in Group L. If we are to win the game, we will top the group. We haven't lost yet in the Europa League. We've won one and we've drawn one. We've only managed one goal, but we haven't conceded. But we'll see what happens. So I just wanted to give you a bit more news and that. And all this. So anyway, guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do consider subscribe, as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more live videos tomorrow.